in a very powerful way. And if we rewind a little bit, we have Jacob in the book of Genesis, the chapter before, in Genesis chapter 27. He has just tricked his dad. And he's dressed himself up. He makes himself smell like his brother. And through the help of his mom, they deceive dad and trick dad, and he receives a blessing. Now, how many of you have ever been tricked, deceived, or hurt by somebody else? Let me see a show of hands. Have you ever been hurt, tricked, or deceived by somebody else? So maybe today, this morning, you would understand what it would be to be like Esau and how it felt to be deceived. Esau doesn't get a little upset. He's not like, oh, no big deal, I'll just shake it off. He was irate. He was angry. And he lets people know what his plans are. He says, when my dad's gone, I'm going to take care of my brother. Not like take care of him, like finish him, underground, worm food. And that was his intent. Jacob finds out through his mom. Mom's like, hey, I don't want to lose both of you. I think it would be best if you left and went to some relatives that I have, and you marry, and you just go there until your brother calms down. How long do you think that would take? So now Jacob's on the run, and that's where this story picks up. His dad still blesses him, and he takes off, and now he's on the run because his brother wants to kill him. So we have to have that in mind. Jacob is leaving with nothing. He has nothing. All these things that he's inherited, he's on the move. And if you look at the text, he doesn't even really have a clear faith in God. When we went to New Orleans a few years ago, and we were helping out with hurricane relief, we noticed something. One of the guys who was kind of the head coordinator took us to different wards and different areas, and he said this. He had observed this action among people. As we started helping people, they would begin to notice people's faith, and they'd ask the question, why do you do this? And they'd say this comment, your God is awesome, your God is amazing. But in time, people began to say this statement, your God, and then they would include themselves and they would say, my God. That's Jacob at this point. He's not saying my God yet. He's just saying the God of my father. So he's literally leaving with very little faith, with no possession. He is on the run for his life. And that's where the story picks up in Genesis chapter 28. Verse 10, it says that Jacob left Beersheba and set out for Haran. When he reached a certain place, he stopped for the night because the sun had set. Taking one of the stones there, what an interesting choice of pillow. How many of you have rocks in your bed? That's your choice of pillow. Usually we lean towards the really comfy stuff. He picks out a stone. That wasn't uncommon that day, but that's what he uses. He takes out a stone, lays his head on it, and goes to sleep. As he's sleeping, he has a dream, and he sees this staircase, a stairway or a ladder resting on the earth with its top reaching to heaven, and the angels of God were ascending and descending on it. There above it stood the Lord, and the Lord said to Jacob, I am the Lord, the God of your father Abraham and the God of Isaac. I will give you and your descendants the land on which you are lying on. Your descendants will be like the dust of the earth. That's how numerous they'll be, and you will spread out to the west and to the east, to the north and to the south. All peoples on earth will be blessed through you and your offspring. I am with you, and I will watch over you wherever you go, and I will bring you back to this land. I will not leave you until I have done what I have promised you. Now that's a dream. A lot of dreams I have, I'm being chased by somebody, I'm eating weird things, I want cookies. We have weird dreams, but can you imagine you see that? And more accurately, you have a staircase, and he's sleeping, and he's seeing literally angels ascending and descending up and down these stairs. And he's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And God's on top, and there's a connection, God on earth, and it's amazing. This is an amazing dream. And God shows up in a very powerful way, very vivid way. And I love how he responds. Jacob wakes up, and he says this, well, surely God was here. God was in this place, but I was not aware of it. And he was scared and said, "How awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God." That's where the name Bethel, that's what it means, house of God. This is the gate of heaven. Early the next morning, Jacob heads out, and he takes that stone that he had laid his head on, and he sets it at a pillar. He sets that site aside as a special place, and he called that place Bethel, house of God. And this is what he says, and I believe this is what we say also. Jacob makes a vow, and he says this: understand what God has just done. He's just had an amazing dream. The Lord has shown up. Angels descending and ascending. He has seen God. It's amazing. God speaks to him and promises all these things, how he's going to watch him, watch over him, care for him. Now catch Jacob's response. His commitment. If God will be with me, and if God will watch over me on this journey, and will give me food to eat, and he'll clothe me, and he'll ensure that I return safely to my father's house, then the Lord will be my God. And this place, where I've placed this stone that I've set up as a pillar, will be God's house. And everything that God gives me, I'll give a tenth. God shows up in an amazing way. And Jacob responds with a very conditional statement. If God does this, then I will do this. Is this a rock-solid faith in God? Is this a complete trust, full trust in God? And what's sad is that this is not resolved till 20 years later, that this is actually resolved, and his faith continues to grow. And he places his full, complete trust in God. Two things usually get in the way of why we place conditions on God. Usually it boils down to one of two things. One, fear. The other, pride. Why do we place conditions on God? God, I would serve more if this happened, and then I would get involved more. If this person would talk to me, or this person would ask for forgiveness, or if this person changed, or if my circumstances would change, then I would serve you. If this person were to come to me first, then I would apologize. If this person loved me, then I would love them. We state a lot of conditional statements, but they usually boil down to two things: fear and pride. We don't fully trust God. In my neighborhood, behind our row of homes, there is a mountain, like a hilltop. And behind our homes, there's this wooded area. And we had a friend, his name was Raymond. Now, Raymond always wanted to hang out with us all the time. But he was younger. He was a little annoying, and he'd always stick to you. He was always around you. There he was. And we would torture this kid. I remember hitting him with a tennis ball. I'm like, what are the chances? I hit up, and he was sitting in between these bars, and the ball went right through the bars, hit him in the face. One day, Raymond's like, hey, can I hang out with you guys? And we all got this sinister look in our eyes. We're like, yes, Raymond, you can hang out with us. So we're like, Raymond, let's go to the woods. And Raymond wasn't too familiar with the woods, so we lure him into the woods, and we start walking. And we keep walking, and two of my buddies stayed behind, and they barricaded a gate. They couldn't lock it. They just placed rocks on both sides, so there's no way that somebody could open this gate. And we kept on going. And me, like Jacob, took up a rock in my hands, but I didn't use that rock to sleep on. I used that rock to deceive. And I said, Raymond, there are wild dogs in these woods. And when I yell, wild dogs, I will protect you, and I will throw this rock at the wild dogs, and you run for your life, and we will save you. And Raymond's like, yeah, cool, yeah, good. Muy bien, sí. And he's like, so we start walking. I'm holding this rock, and when the time was perfect, I look at Raymond, and I'm like, wild dogs, Raymond, run! But this was in Spanish. Raymond, corre! And he starts running. And I just launched this rock into the weeds. And we're laughing and having a great time. Little Raymond's taking off. He runs. because we knew what he was going to encounter. So we go out another exit of the woods because we knew that Raymond wasn't that familiar. And then we head out, and then this thought comes in our mind, what if Raymond gets hurt? What if something happens to him? And we start planning on how we're going to save him, protect him, and then we hear a voice. His mom's very loud voice. Raymond! Because that's how you say Raymond in Spanish. Raymond! And she is screaming, and we hear this tiny voice coming from the woods. Mommy! Raymond! Mommy! And our hearts sunk in hearing his voice, and we're trying to come up with a scheme of how we're going to rescue him. So we're getting together, and what we didn't know is that Raymond's walking out. And as he sees us, when he sees us, I don't know if you've ever received this look from someone, but he looked at us, but looked right through us. Because he knew that he had been tricked and deceived, and we knew it too. And he looked at us, tears flowing down his face, and our hearts are broken, and he just walked around us, and we're trying to talk to him, and he just went home, heartbroken, crying. And we're like, why did we do that? Why did we deceive him? But you know what happens in us? We think that God is like that. We believe that God doesn't really have plans and intentions and a desire to care and love us and guide us in our life. We think that somehow God is trying to trick us in the woods and saying wild dogs, and we're just running crazily through this life trying to figure out what's going on. And we hear people crying out for us and we don't know what to do. And that those that we think care about us are trying to trick us, and we believe that this distorted lie that God does not love us, that God does not care for us, that God does not walk with us and watch over us. And we begin to believe this lie that God wants to trick us and deceive us, when really God loves you and watches over us and cares for us and walks with us and guides us in every aspect of our life, if we would trust him. But do we? Now, that's fear. The next one's pride. But I want you guys to watch a video, because there's other reasons that fall under fear and pride of why we give conditional statements to God. And I think this video helps capture some of the excuses you make. So maybe as you watch it, you may find some of the excuses that you yourself may have used.
Oh, help. Can you help me, please? I'm stuck.
I don't think that's a good idea. I have zero experience in lumberjacking.
Thank God you're here. Can you make some food? I've been stuck here for 6 days, and all I've had to eat are 2 pine cones.
Well, I'm not a nutritionist, so I wouldn't know what someone in your condition would...
Do something!
Do what? I'm not a zoologist.
There's a gun in the tent. Get the gun.
I don't have a license. I've never operated...
Look, just throw a rock or something.
I'm not a geologist. I don't know which one would be most effective.
Oh, I don't want to die. I don't even know if I'll get into heaven. Do you at least know how to get into heaven?
Well, actually, I'm a Christian, but I'm not a theologian, so I wouldn't really know what to say to you. But, you know, if you ever get out of here, you really should look into it.
Oh, he's coming! Run!
But I have no formal training in long-distance running.
If you were here this morning at Grab a Roll, you would have learned how to outrun bears. You would have found ways to get involved. We place so many excuses of why we do not get involved, or why we have conditional statements. God, if this were to happen, then I would serve you. But at the end of this service, if you did not go to Grab a Roll this morning, you will still have opportunities to get connected and plugged in different ministries and different opportunities in our church and beyond. So if you missed it this morning, we will train you on how to outrun bears. It's pretty simple. You shoot the leg of the person next to you, and you outrun them. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You don't outrun the bear. You just shoot the person next to you, and you just keep it going. And so we place conditional statements. But the other aspect that we need to look at